Okay, let's dive right into this. It's a really bizarre and complex story that's kind of haunting the heart of Bitcoin. It's this whole narrative that's woven from, confirmed financial ties, sprawling conspiracy theories, and this deep-seated paranoia that connects one of the world's most notorious criminals to the very code that powers the original cryptocurrency. So you have to ask, how did this happen? How did Jeffrey Epstein's name become this ghost in Bitcoin's machine? We're going to trace that shadow he casts over Bitcoin's code, its culture, and the community's constant battle for control. And all of this is based on the conversations happening in Bitcoin's oldest public square. And to really get this story, you first have to understand the venue. We're talking about bitcointalk.org. This isn't just some random forum. It's basically the living history of Bitcoin. It's where the community's memory, its biggest fights, and all its traumas are stored. So when a name like Epstein enters a space like this, he's not just a person anymore. He becomes a powerful, toxic symbol. So here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to look at three distinct vectors of influence that people on the forum use to connect all the dots: the code itself, the culture that's grown around it, and the battle for political control. And then we'll look at what this whole thing reveals about the deep crisis of trust at the very heart of the project. All right, that brings us to our first vector, the code. Now, this one is maybe the most grounded in reality because it traces a verified trail of money from Jeffrey Epstein right to some of the developers writing Bitcoin's core software. And we're talking about the Bitcoin core devs. These are the top-tier programmers who maintain the fundamental protocol that everyone else builds on top of. So this slide really maps out the chain of association that fuels the whole narrative. On the forums, users lay it out just like this. Epstein's money went to Joy Ito at MIT. Then, Ito's venture fund invested in Blockstream, a huge company in the Bitcoin space, which in turn employs key Bitcoin core developers. For the critics, well, the conclusion is simple. Bitcoin's code itself has been tainted. And listen, this isn't just some vague accusation about corporate influence. No, the story on the forum gets incredibly dark and really specific. The claim is that major technical decisions like moving away from large on-chain transactions weren't about scaling. They were, and I'm quoting the theory here, a deliberate re-engineering of Bitcoin to make it more useful for the human trafficking business. So the crucial point here, the one that forum users are making, is that this network connects Bitcoin's main developers to the exact same global elite that Bitcoin was supposed to make obsolete. You've got these alleged connections to the Bilderberg Group through the insurance giant AXA. You've got the original sin of Epstein's money flowing through MIT, and it all leads back to the people writing the code. And the language they use to describe this, it's incredibly potent. Developers aren't just seen as, making a bad business deal. They're labeled crypto quizlings, which is a direct reference to Nazi collaborators. It frames them as outright traitors who sold out the entire cypherpunk revolution, a movement that was all about using crypto to protect individuals from powerful institutions. And here's where you see the real-world impact. Super technical debates, like the ones around the Lightning Network for faster payments, get completely reframed. What supporters see as a totally necessary scaling solution, critics on the forum see as a centralized banking layer that was secretly pushed by the Epstein class to control Bitcoin and neuter its potential. Okay, so that brings us to our second vector, which moves away from the code and dives right into the culture. This one's all about the perceived moral character of the people building the wider crypto world, and this deep-seated fear that the whole thing is being corrupted from the inside. And a central figure in this cultural vector is Brock Pierce. He's a foundational player in this industry. He co-founded the stablecoin Tether and the venture firm Blockchain Capital. But his really controversial past and his alleged connections to Epstein make him an absolute lightning rod for suspicion on the forums. This creates a huge amount of fear, uncertainty, and doubt, what everyone in crypto calls FUD. The logic is pretty simple, and frankly, it's terrifying for traders. If a key figure at the very foundation of Tether is compromised, then the stability of the entire market's most important stablecoin is suddenly at risk. And this culture clash is just so key to understanding the whole thing. The original cypherpunk ethos is often really ascetic, it's technical, and it's deeply, deeply distrustful of centralized power. So when they look at this world of lavish parties and wealthy elites, they don't just see a different lifestyle, they see the corrupting influence of the old fiat system they were trying to escape in the first place. The Epstein connection in their eyes just confirms their absolute worst fears. So our third vector, this one goes even deeper into paranoia. It explores the theory that Bitcoin isn't just influenced by elites, but that it's secretly a tool of control being wielded by the deep state and intelligence agencies. This narrative absolutely exploded in 2024 when those court documents related to Epstein were released. The forums just lit up. You had users turning into these digital detectives, combing through every name on those lists, searching for anyone connected to the crypto world, looking for proof of who might be a compromised asset. And this is the question that just haunts the community. When Bitcoin Core contributor Jeremy Rubin's name was mentioned in the files, it fueled exactly this kind of paranoia. It almost doesn't matter if the context is innocent. The mere association is enough to kick off these purity spirals on the forum where people demand developers prove their ideological cleanliness. And look, this isn't a one-time thing. It's a reoccurring nightmare for the community. You can see the narrative starts forming way back in 2015, it spikes massively with Epstein's arrest in 2019, and then it enters this new forensic phase with the document release in 2024. Each new revelation just pours more fuel on the fire. So, what does this all add up to? Well, it's a crisis of trust. This whole sprawling, dark narrative is about something way bigger than one man. It's really a battle for the very soul of Bitcoin. And maybe the most sophisticated part of all this is how the Epstein narrative gets used as a metaphor. Forum users draw a direct line between the tactics of, narrative controls, censorship, and gaslighting that predators like Epstein allegedly used, and the tactics they claim were used to push for smaller blocks during Bitcoin's biggest civil war, the block size war. And this brings us right back to the forum's collective memory. Specific threads, like the legendary topic 1347, are remembered as the scene of the crime. The Epstein narrative is then weaponized to refight these old battles, framing a technical debate as a deep moral crime. Ultimately, what we're seeing is a community that's just gripped by what analysts call a hermeneutics of suspicion. It's basically a worldview where you interpret everything through a lens of profound distrust. In a network that was designed to be trustless, the human element suddenly becomes the biggest liability, and everyone is a potential enemy. And that leaves us with the central paradox of all this. The Epstein discourse really reveals a project at war with itself. It's a debate over whether a system designed to operate without any trusted third parties can actually survive contact with the real world, a world of dirty money, powerful elites, and human weakness, without completely losing its soul in the process.